14 soldiers arrested in 2025. Our democracy since 1999. So that means our democracy is 26 years old. It's going to be 26 years old. I don't know, do the maths. Now, coup plotters. After Abuja, we believe say army don't dey barrack. No more, but nobody they come out. But you see, poverty can drive people out of their nest. This is a sign. So the present government must work hard, do well for the people, so the soldiers can stay in their barracks, not having ideas to come and take over government. For where democracy has come to stay. No, stay in the barracks. We will sort our problem ourselves, and there will be democracy. Soldiers' job is to protect the nation, not to take over. That's the gospel truth. So please, and democracy to you people that are in power. You see, this one never happened since 1999. Is a sign to say things are not going well. Work on it. God bless our country.
Hello, fellow citizens of Nigeria. Hello, fellow citizens of Nigeria. My name is Just Adeton. You can call me Omo Baba Jagaban. Now, I want to give my father a presidential advice. It's not everybody that can give this type of advice that I want to give. So, my father, please, I want to advise you, or I want to plead with you, that at this point where we are now, the best thing that you can do for Nigeria, they said that rice have come down, dollar have come down, a lot of things have come down, things are beginning to normalize. APC people, they can see it. Non-APC people, some don't see it with one eye, and never. The only thing that you can do now, that everybody will see that the president has done something ambiguous, tremendous, and commendable, is to scrap NDLEA. And scrap NDLEA. What is the point? Scrap NDLEA. Let everybody just be free. You that you release, I heard that this last 2 weeks where no day. They said that you have released 90. You pardoned 90 drug baron. Baba, one pay you know lay and go my rodo. She be a mockery tell us that I say you be drug baron. So you can't drive, you can't forgive drug baron too. One pay you know one pay you know lay and one go my rodo. There are some people that have been in prison for the past 70, 60, 20 years. If you know how many NGOs are always going to courts doing pro bono cases to pardon people that were convicted wrongly, you don't see all those ones. My father, you now pardoned. Let me read it. They said this is the message they sent to me. Your father pardoned 90 drug barons. Your father pardoned Miriam, a woman that mutilated her husband. That woman, they said she never spent 5 years. In fact, 2023 Supreme Court just upholded their judgment. My father, I don't pardon her. Now, Minister of Justice, why are you people like this? Why can you not advise my old man on the right things to do in the current state of the nation? When things are trying to balance, you people just come now. You have scattered everything. Shamo, where you there when they bring that paper? Because obviously this pardon, they say Council of State to sign. This kind of pardon, I'm sure that's not be clear. My papa takes final. They carry you from Lagos to go and be Baba secretary, so that you'll be monitoring all this unscrupulous and all this governing council and all these 5 powers G, so that they will not infiltrate and intimidate Baba. They will allow you to do this job freely and fairly. You see it now. Sorry, I have one question, Daddy. President Tinubu, these people that you pardon, now they won't help you rig election 2027. Now they won't help INEC sham and conduct election. What is their purpose for pardon? Because how can you pardon 90 drug barons? Now they won't supply you. You need supply, huh? Now, what is the implication of this on the Nigerian police? They said the ones who kidnapped Chief Justice of Federation self. My papa, don't pardon her. Let me read it, yo. So that I no go say I said they have reported my father to me. So now you release the people that kidnap judges. Daddy. Now, what impression does this create? The long-term impression does this create on the police, on the prosecutor, on the judges, on the judiciary, and on the civil servants? Stop NDLEA. What is the point of still doing NDLEA? What did they do? Let everybody go drink the thing. Let we go do general public drinking. I be smoking. I be sniffing. Baba Jagaban. And I cool down for you since all these days, so because I just believe, say, you go, they say, make I no keep up, make I no keep. I just cool down, say, make I give you focus to work. And also say, this leave where I leave you, they don't enter my father. They don't allow my father to don't they share with it again. You people now think that being powerful does not mean putting other people into consideration. This is democracy for crying out loud. That you mean? You all Lagos, nobody's struggling with you. I don't remember you do. Does that mean that because you are now the president, you should not look at both parties? Then say the woman when you even pardon the family, they say Mama and former PDP. Baba Jagata. Shey you bolowa. Shey you where you there? Our Baba signed this kind of thing. You just want to scatter this country. Scrap NDLEO. When you can release 90 drug baron. Scrap maybe unasabi each other. I don't know. But the message where they test for me, they reported my father to me. No be say anything. I'm not reporting they reported my father to me. Say I should come and see what my father is doing. Go down. It's not good. One point they said our president is a baron, and you went and released 90 barons. Then you finish. They say you now release the ones who don't die. You give them posthumous. Baba Jagaban, make me and you no resume duty. Because I know that you are owing Nigeria a lot of things to fix. Now you bring Buhari. The one where Buhari no fix, the assignment is on your neck. That's why I say let me give you peace of mind to work, but it's like you are not working. You are abusing power now, daddy me. President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you are abusing power. You are abusing power. I won't continue that my father did. How can? If una never release the Minister of General of Federation, make you go use your brain, you. This one where you carry go give my papa, make it sign. You know be part of him. If una never sign, make una know. Make it just be an idea. Let this not come to not come to reality, yo. Let it not just come to reality, because this is not the Nigeria that we are agitating and we are crying for. We are looking for a president that will come and fix this country. We are not looking for one president that will come and scatter everybody's conscience and interest in nation building. How can you release 90 drug barons? What kind of bomb-class action is that? Who is advising you? That is a nonsense, unacceptable advice to the presidency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in this dying time. What do you need them for? Campaign. Now, you people should reset. How can you be pardoning 90 drug barons? They have not, some of them have not spent 2 years. Some of them have not spent 3 years. Some of them have not even spent 20 years. You come there. Is it pardon by connection? Answer. So pardon is by connection now. So you see when they say that no hope for lazy man, no hope for man that is not connected in this country. So everything now by connection. Because if not, somebody that that mutilated their husband loco, how can you say you release that one? Somebody that have not shot prison rights for 5 years, you release her on what ground, daddy me? Then you come back, let us put ourselves in the shoes. Somebody will cut my brother, she prick now. He now say that they should release and come out. Oh, possible now. If you never release those people, make una change in your mind. Because what you people want to do, you are just going to cause chaos. And you are going to make people lose interest in this country. The more you. I go always the one you.
The administration, to a very large extent, from assumption into office, appears to be wanting to do its best, but the best obviously isn't enough. There's been a clear departure from good governance into consistent politicking, and that has been a challenge. It has been a major drawback in this Tinubu's administration, and the political loyalists have since transmogrified themselves into sycophants, making it practically impossible for the man to see the lacunas inherently within his government and to make the critical decisions to create change. And so for many of us who are onlookers, we are watching closely. There are so many errors. The desperation to return into power in 2027 has taken the center stage, relegating good governance behind the scene. And we are hoping and praying whether the twist of fate that we could get something that we had previously anticipated or hoped for. Because what we have now is something that no one had previously envisaged, believing that Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as they had previously said, was the Jagaban, a man who could muster his own strength, who had the capacity to make some strategic inputs without being cowed by the whims and caprices of other political leaders and masters. But what we're saying is that the man he has not been able to give us what we had previously anticipated. The idea of insecurity we had hoped for that would have been brought to a logical conclusion, knowing that the man is not from the Fulani extract, or perhaps is not a Muslim or religious bigot or a Muslim extremist, that we say, okay, perhaps for being from the south, a Yoruba man could put that in abeyance. Very little or no success are recorded in that direction. And then the issue of the economy is a double jeopardy on its own part. So we are just hoping and praying that by the twist of fate, it may take a new turn. But with the rising of 2027 politics, I doubt if there's light on the end of this tunnel.
And how will you assess his economic reforms that he says is really transforming the lives of Nigerians, that prices of goods are trending down and inflation is dropping? So how would you assess if you say you are not impressed so far?
The question I've asked in time past, where were all of these metrics before they came into power? That's where we start from. We cannot just say perhaps, because when Bola Ahmed Tinubu took over power, we had inflation, but not as bad as it was. It came when because the man practically got into office, and without even getting into the office, just from the stadium, just said first was gone. And with that singular statement, Nigeria was truncated into serious poverty. And people now discovered that they were only going to work for transport, no longer to earn a living. And the challenge became enormous for the average Nigerian man, especially those on fixed wages. For those in business, we managed to, at least whatever you put on the system, they add profit on top to progress. But those who were on fixed wages, it became a thing of life and death. And when you say inflation is about 128%, and it now reduced to, I think the JOHNATHAN value for 20-something percent, 120-something%. And I ask, if you understand what food inflation is, it means that what you usually buy for 100 naira now costs 120 naira out of no other factor but pure economic pressure. And all of a sudden, they have reduced it to 120, from 280 naira to 227 naira, and you say we should be celebrating. Is that what we're supposed to be celebrating? When it thought we met at the 100 naira, and we were hoping that it could be brought down to, let's say, 70 naira, 80 naira, or 100 or 90 naira or thereabout, it went up and later just removed a fraction, and we should be celebrating. They say naira, the dollar is now stable, and I begin to ask, for the fact that the material is available but not affordable, is that what we should celebrate? So it's the facts and figures are out there, and I observe the desperation of this current regime to want to always twist the figures and the narratives, put on our statistics. There's no reflection of reality, and make the people look as though they do not know what's happening. You create out policies to alleviate poverty, then you come back to explain the policies to us. We are not seeing it, we are not feeling it, and you make it look as though we are ungrateful. Perhaps we need to wait. If you say there's incubation time for the implementation of your policies, what about the incubation time for insecurity, the incubation time for hunger, the incubation time also for poor education? Nigeria today has the largest number of people living without electricity across the world. We are home to poverty. We are home to, not like all of these things were absent, we're not there before it came, but we're hoping to get a clear departure from what it used to be. We are still here, and you want us to still celebrate. So that's been a challenge, and we are looking closely at the government. Is there any hope? Many people are saying we need a change, and they say yes. We're also looking at the possibilities of a change, because the man appears to be a sit-tight president. Can we really reposition and rewire to get the kind of governance we desire? We're looking at the institutions that we could rely upon. We're looking at INEC. We're looking at the security infrastructure. We're looking at the judiciary. Can these institutions engage in the electoral process and produce a leader that could be a reflection of the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerian people? All of those are questions we are asking.
Now you talked about INEC. How would you rate the former INEC chairman, and then of course the expectation on the incoming INEC chairman?
The former INEC chairman, I could say without missing words, was a colossal failure. Because what I saw in 2023 was the repositioning of the Electoral Act in 2022, and then there was a new body of laws that were put together to ensure that Nigeria could get an election that could be a semblance of what the people actually desired. We had watched out for electoral rewiring and reforms, whereby they said they're going to be electronic transmission of results. Now, yes, right from the polling units, results are going to be transmitted directly or directed to the server where Nigerians can sit at home, both home and abroad, and watch as the values are being churned up, insulating it from outright manipulation of results, whereby ballot box national will not be a thing of the past, relegated to the past. We saw when they came out with the idea of saying them, now INEC brought out his own laws. Funny enough, when the election took part, we now discovered that INEC haven't said there's going to be a electoral transition. Now said it can no longer hold. There was a collusion between the Nigerian Independent Electoral Commission and the judiciary. We took INEC to court, and the judiciary said that the laws that INEC had put in place we are no longer permissible. That electoral transmission of results is not enshrined in the Electoral Act. It's only in the bylaw. And INEC has it as INEC is empowered by law to make rules and regulation for the election. But the rules and regulation that INEC made were not admissible in court. So it became a dichotomy. There were many other issues laced around the electoral process that made it a hoax, whereby INEC did the election. Today, if you carry INEC to court, INEC does not appear. INEC is irresponsible. INEC does not bring out agents to say, they don't bring, INEC don't have witness. If they call out a result, and even in clear, broad daylight, you see clear discrepancy between the results in the ward and the ones being announced in the local government. And you say, INEC, these things, there's clear discrepancy. They will tell you to go to court. And when you get to court, they will begin to focus on trivialities, focus on the technicalities, rather than the legality of the matter. And they begin to give you judgment. There's no reflection of justice. So there's been a collusion between INEC and the judiciary, whereby the INEC will conduct a 40 dubious and actually manipulated election and quickly hand it over to the judiciary. And the judiciary now becomes the new empire who will now focus on it. So that has been the collaboration, the collusion, very unholy, very dubious. We saw what happened in Edo State, where it was widely acclaimed to be one of the most fraudulent elections in broad daylight. And there was actual manipulation of results. You see that this thing do not tally, but yet the man was reinstated. So I want to say INEC alone, but INEC and the judiciary appears to now be the deciders of the fate of Nigerian people. And so for INEC, for me, it has failed by all measures and standard. Because once we're unable to get it right, it becomes practically impossible for us to predict the future. Because if this current administration knows that it's we the people who will decide who will be the next leader, they won't lead the way they are leading. Because they know that you and I do not have the capacity to determine who will go there or will not go there. That's why they are leading and they are taking the people for a ride.
Talking about the judiciary now, in the light of all that you've said, we're approaching 2027. What's the hope? Has anything changed about the judiciary? And how are we going to go about 2027?
My calculation, there are factors that necessitate ringing and actual manipulation of results. What made it effortlessly easy in 2023 was that there was a division in the opposition votes. If there was a clear dichotomy between who wants Tinubu and who wants the change, I think it's going to be a bit easier, because there are pressures that people may fall under and makes it practically impossible for them to engage in the actual manipulation of results, whereby the people who are against the establishment are in huge numbers, it becomes difficult for those things to be carried out in broad daylight without some form of strong resistance. So my calculation is that it's not just going to be changed from the institution. We're hoping that the people will be more educated and enlightened, haven't seen the effects of poor governance on the life of the average Nigerian out there in the streets, that they're able to at least rise up to their consciousness and say, no, enough is enough, because what we are seeing now, there's no light at the end of this tunnel. And then it's no longer a tunnel, it's not a toilet. So we have to rise to the occasion and engage meaningfully and see how we could just fight the system and produce a result out of sheer desperation, because the system will have to opt for a change. So we are not hoping that they will obviously gift us or hand us over a change. We are hoping that we could fight our way and force the system to change. And that's where we are hoping and praying that perhaps we're able to get the opposition voices together, because it will be a clear attempt to scuttle the opposition platforms, to see the PDP disarray, the Labour Party disarray. It was even funny when the New Nigerian People Party at one time last year came out and suspended the only governor they had. And I began to wonder, yet nothing happened. If this country is not issue, how can the party come forward and say they are suspending the only governor in the platform? And they say yes, and they all celebrated it. We see even the Labour Party that came up, that gave out a strong opposition to the APC in the last election. Even the only governor they had, Alex Oti, could not use the Labour Party to control the local government election. He had to go and borrow the Labour Party. That's why you have broken. Everybody knows what happened in the PDP, how sickling it has become. So there's been a desperation to kill and destroy the opposition platforms, so that in 2027 we're going to have a one-party state. So that when Tinubu does what does not do well, you'll be the only choice you have. And that's why I also commend the efforts of those people in the ADC and the coalition they are putting together. And hopefully we could have a platform that could still maintain some level of electoral integrity that we could use, because the absence of options in democracy is the death of any democratic process.
Well, you talked about the ADC. Is ADC, do you think they are properly positioned to upstage the APC come 2027?
Yes, they are doing their best. It's just that the factors that will necessitate a critical change has not been brought upon us, because it's also anchored on timing. When the election gets extremely close, let's say we'll hit like 2026 and the party primaries are done, candidates have been brought forward, we'll now have a clear picture of what's expected. And persons who are decamping now are decamping for personal and obvious reasons. And then when the election comes closer, because this one we are seeing now is first acceleration of the process, but sooner or later we're going to get the true, when the time is at hand, we'll now know exactly how the process. But so far so good, they've been doing their best. We're seeing gains of defection, especially in northern and the southwestern part of the country. We've seen many politicians openly identify with the platform, knowing fully well that the establishment still has the capacity to intimidate them using the security apparatus, the FCC, the anti-graft agencies, but there's still some level of dispassion. There's a level of they have courage. They have courage, and to stand against a very territorial government as we have it today, that is very dispassionate in its approach. They have done well. They have done well. We should give them courage. We should salute their courage and see how it pans out, how the whole thing process shapes out in the coming days.
You seem to be hard on the government. Let's look at the ministers, because I know that some of them, Nigerians, have been saying this is doing well, this is doing well, this is doing well. For you, let's look at some of the persons that have excelled, impressed you under this administration.
The ministers, the largest, many of them, I know these ministers, when we brought into office, they have the sole purpose of implementing the plans and aspirations of their principal, I dare say, because that's how I've understood governments to operate. That when a man is elected, it brings out his persons who understand his trajectory of governance to implement all of those policies that he had previously promised. Because many of the ministers were not elected, they are appointed by a man who is elected. So they are honor bound and duty bound to express the intent and purpose of the principal. And there are a few of them who have done well, because many of them have now, because they know Bola Ahmed Tinubu is disposed strongly to 2027 and the rhetorics of politics. Many of them have subjugated good governance associated with politics. But for example, I could take, for example, the Minister of Interior, Honorable, I think, Olubomi Tunji Ojo. The man, to a large extent, has done relatively well. I'm not a fan of the APC, neither am I a fan of this government, but I've seen his scorecard. At least I remember we spent about 3 weeks decongesting over 2,000 applications for international visas, which was unprecedented in the history of Nigeria. Passports. And then we saw how he has introduced the electronic visas. We saw how perhaps there's now an issue of contactless application for passports, whereby you don't need to be present, and then they could probably get your application details online. And then we also watched where he there's some persons who were previously convicted, about 2,000 of them, with the option of fine. I couldn't pay fine, and they were causing congestion of the security of the prisons. The man practically went in and paid fine for about 2,000 persons to be released. I also saw the promotions he did of about 50,000 persons in these last 2 years. So the man has been doing well. And what makes me single him out is the ability to engage in governance without dwelling on the narratives of politics. Because we see some other very funny characters in government who perhaps they say they've done well, but whether you like it or not, they've subjugated good governance for politics, and then they speak from both sides of their mouths. One thing I want to say clearly: Nigeria is in comatose, is in bad shape, is heading for the rocks. Not because we do not have politicians with intellect, not because we do not have politicians who lack ambition. What we have is politicians who do not have the integrity and character to hold and wield power. Because when a politician does not have character, well, character is what character restrains and controls power. If you have power and you do not have character, the politician becomes very unpredictable and I dare say dangerous. And if you're able to control this kind of politicians without character, whereby we have politicians who talk from both sides of their mouth, who do not anchor, who perhaps do not even give regards to justice. Because when there's no character, you cannot be bound by justice, fairness, and equity. You're not being driven by primordial sentiments of personal benefits. And then you see them buying to affluence, buying to power, buying to self-aggrandizement. And all these characters, what we've seen in characters like Wike, who have been a tool in the destruction of the People's Democratic Party, practically holding the opposition bound, ensuring that there's no opposition voice or dissenting voice in Nigerian democracy. We see the bragado, a man comes in public domain and begin to speak about how he has fought this, how he has fought that, as though good governance is all about political infighting and imbroglio. They said, yes, some people said the man has been tying roads, and I asked to what expense and cost. A project that will cost about 200 million, you appropriate 2 billion to it, and the project is completed, does not hold the value, does not churn out the value, does not retain such value, and want us to celebrate such a reckless deployment of resources. And we saw the sheer rascality. It's something we should not celebrate, because I tell people most likely, I said every generation has their own battle. For those persons who were Nigerians before the return of democracy, before we became independent in 1960, their own struggle in the lives of the Enaro was to ensure that we chase out the British government and give us an indigenous form of government. Let us see who can lead and rule ourselves. Those are their battle. They lived, they fought, and they died for it. When independence came in 1960, the battle now changed, because after the First Republic, it was truncated by the military era. People who lived in that area, their aim and aspiration had changed. They now said, oh, what we need is a system of government that will be able to at least meet the needs and aspirations of people, and not the military dictatorship, because it was widely acclaimed that democracy is the only form of government, is the best, and the best of government that can really meet the needs of the people. Their whole battle after that 1960 was to ensure that they hand over democracy as one of the best systems of government to the Nigerian people. They lived, they fought, and they died. In the return of this Fourth Republic, after it was achieved in 1999, and democracy was instituted as the mainstay, we now discovered very clearly that the democracy that was given to us is inherently dysfunctional, cannot serve, and cannot meet the needs of the people. Our own challenge is to ensure that we reposition, we retool, and we rejig the Nigerian democracy, so that we will hand over a democracy to our children that can serve and meet their needs. For this same cause, many of us are willing to fight, we're willing to live, and we're willing to die for. So that's where we are. And one of the major inhibitants to this kind of democracy is politics without character.
Talking about your reference to Wike and then destruction of opposition party. Which party are you referring to? And then how did he destroy the opposition party you are talking about?
They've been a direct drag. They told me it's when they do these kind of things, they tell us, oh, it's all politics. There's never a time political systems. Everybody must do everything within their possible power to ensure that the opposition does not thrive, and then we must continue this. There are some patterns, there are some tactics in politics that I can best describe as criminal. It's not anchored on morality, it's not anchored on good governance, it's just shared desperation and wickedness. Because when you say you have funded the party, you are the one who owns the soul of the party, you come at the parliament to boast that I made this one fail, if not for me, this one would not have win. I brought this national chairman, the man misbehaved, I kicked him out. I brought this party, this one can't survive, and you hold the party. You see people, characters in the people, you go to court and you collect all form of scrupulous judgment just to truncate pure democratic processes. It's totally uncalled for, because we've seen his actions directly and indirectly. The man has not said no, he's not the one. The man has not denied that he's not the one frustrating the growth and development of the party. And we saw how they frustrated the People's Democratic Party, the Labour Party, the New Nigerian People Party. There's no one that's been insulated from this high-handedness of Nyesom Wike.
But why do you think that the People's Democratic Party is not able to suspend him?
When they say it's not
above the party?
No, it's not above the party. The man has the resources of the federal government, which he used to fund the officers of the party. And those officers of the party are willing and ready to do his bidding at any point in time. We saw some daddy who went to contest in Imo State. For crying out loud, everybody knows the constitution of the People's Democratic Party. A man leaves his position to contest. And after he lost, he didn't even spend 2 more hours after his record. He quickly ran to Abuja to say he had never resumed. Or where exactly is that thing happening? And the man goes to court to correct a form of dubious judgment just to ensure that he remains, he stays in power. We saw the body language of Damago. We saw the organizing secretary Baturi. So when we look at all of these things and the way they are taking shape and the way they get the support of the establishment, you know fully well that they share desperation on the part of the people, the APC, using Nyesom Wike as a tool to hold the opposition platform to ransom. We saw what happened in the Labour Party, where Peter Obi is practically kicked out. Now he's struggling to find footing in the ADC coalition. It was so bad that even the governor of Labour Party is practically outside. It's now factionized. So when we now make it look as though we are not aware where the influence is coming from, we are not being true to ourselves. And if people continue in this trajectory to play this kind of dubious and dirty politics, we have ourselves to blame, because good governance will be totally sacrificed in the years to come. And we're going to celebrate characters like this. It becomes very disenchanting, because people will now focus more on politics and the desperation to retain power without the interest of improving the lives of the people.
If you look at the FCT, a lot of people are saying, those in FCT are saying, Mr. Project is doing very well, and they've never seen anything like this in the FCT before. What do you think?
The minister is is a theatrics of the media. It calls them every single day for press briefing. Wike has had more press briefing than the president. Gather all the other ministers together. Wike has spoken to the media more. He has them on his payrolls. They are his cronies, allies, and surrogates. He calls them at beck and call. They go to his side. They don't invite him. The last interview Wike did in channels, they extended it to 2 hours. How can the politics today was supposed to be a 1 hour program? You invite somebody because the man can talk and he has so many stories to tell. The man goes there and yammer currently for 2 straight hours. So when the man has so much resources, the truth is there's so much resources at the disposal of this man. Mind you, aside Lagos State and River State, the FCT is the next state that generates the highest internal generated revenue. And the man has headed River State. The River State now is practically in his pocket. And when the governor there decided to misbehave, not wanting to support the terms of agreement, he kicked him out and brought a SO administrator. When SO administrator was done dealing with the man, they brought him back as a humble pie.
He's not the president.
We all know how those things happened and then the influences that took part. What's the interest of the president in River State? If the president didn't want such to happen, we know the advice he took. We know the battles that were fought and lost. So we're not going to act as though we are ignorant of all these things, because those ignorance in itself prevents us from assessing truth. So for the man to have so much resources at his disposal, and now he's controlling the war chest of the FCT, and the FCT has now been put from the single treasury account, so the man can spend at will, and yet there's now a big dichotomy between the rich and the poor, the house and the house not. Mind you, all the money that was removed from subsidy was being handed over to politicians to ensure that they could. So the people are now paying to ensure that the political leaders and masters have more resources at their disposal to continue to weaponize poverty and the machinations of power. So when the man calls you and gives you millions of naira, what do you expect? The media must pay their bills. The media must buy equipment. The media has bills to pay. And as such, it's practically impossible for them not to sing his praises. But for many of us who know the truth, who are called on the principle of fair hearing, we know that all of these things won't last and it won't stand the test of time. Because sooner or later, okay, for example, now you've heard the allegation that was being brought forward by the Salary reporters. They said that the man has buildings in Florida that was not declared in the code of conduct bureau before he came government. That the priorities he had in Florida, obviously about 3 buildings, 3 different properties that was being bought, and then under the surrogates and cronies of his family members. And why is the media not reporting it? We saw recently Uche Energy that was heated up vehemently, and the man was forced to resign, making it the first minister to resign. If not for the crucifixion of the media, the Nigerian media, the fortress of the realm, do you think the man would have resigned? Do you think he would have willingly come out to say no? No, because the media was able to buttress that point. They brought it. It was an issue being discussed. But why is Wike not finding traction in the media? Because these people have resources to cover whatever actions and inactions they've done. I heard it was even reported that the man has quickly reached out to the code of conduct bureau to bring out the facts so that I can quickly go and re-edit the asset declaration he did to capture those properties. But unfortunately, those funds have been submitted to the EFCC. But also no controls the EFCC. So all of these battles is just a cycle we're rounding in. And the man, the problem I have is that the actions and inactions of this man is further nudging. It's not just destroying the present, it's also destroying the future. Because when Nigeria continue to churn out politicians with that character, then there's no hope for the Nigerian future. Because as long as the new generation politicians begin to see that right is might, that might is right rather, that whoever has the power could decide what is right and what is wrong, then there's no possibility of you wanting to tend towards the issues of truth. Those values and virtues practically mean nothing. People now want to get whatever they have and ensure that they use it for their personal aggrandizement. It's not so. All of this narrative needs to be repositioned. That's why we cannot continue to going to lip sync those persons who have power because they have it and they wield it recklessly. Let us begin to enthrone civility in our policy. Let us begin to enthrone characters. Those persons who are dispassionate in bringing home the dividends of democracy. Those people who want to be seen as examples. Because what we see in Nigerian democracy is that when they express this high level of political recklessness, after some years they'll come back and they start begging. A couple of days ago, I think a month ago, I watched when Olusegun Obasanjo was saying that where it's going now is not very far. When I think it was being paid visit by the ADC group. That where it's going to is not very close. At least it's getting close to his grave. That he wants to ensure that Nigeria works. I looked at him and I laughed. And I said it was the man whom Nigerian Fourth Republic was handed over to. He had the capacity to reposition and ensure that Nigeria has sustainable democracy. What did he do? We saw the level of recklessness and shared. He portrayed well, was the leader and so of the People's Democratic Party. And today is regretting. We saw how Babangida came out and wrote a book and was also regretting. So now later Tinubu will also come out and start regretting. Even this year some Wike, he will come out and start regretting. But do we have to regret before we make change? Do we have to walk earnestly in this dreaded path before we now begin to recollect our steps? So for me, I just believe that these people should not be celebrated. We should call a spade a spade. Nigeria cannot progress without values and virtues. If we cannot anchor our democracy on justice, fairness, truth, and equity, there is no hope for the Nigerian people. If politicians cannot relegate politics to the background and focus on governance and development, there is nothing to hope for, because we cannot continue with this trajectory.
They say the buck stops at the table of the president. Do you blame any minister who is not probably doing what he's supposed to do or showing off, unlike what we see in other climes? Do we blame the minister?
No, I will predict sooner or later that if Tinubu does not cut to size, yes, Wike will become a heavy political liability as we roll over into 2027. Because I've evaluated the man's political. You see, many people may say, he has been able to subdue the River State people. Now, River State is in the pocket of Tinubu, and I laugh. Because I'm from the South, and I know the resolute spirit of an average Southerner, especially many of us who are from the Nigerian Delta areas. See, the calculation to say that because, Wike has consistently or completely bullied Sinful Bara and the River State people, putting a SO administrator, that the vote will go where it pleases, is a far cry from reality. The people may actually revote. They may express their dissenting opinion. They may punish Tinubu for the actions and inactions of Wike. And because the media is singing the praise of the man does not mean that the people are in tandem with the media. Whether you like it or not, the man must